Hey, welcome to another computer literacy broadcast. We're going to take a look at designing web pages today. So, welcome to week 8. We're going to take a look at what HTML is and CSS. We're going to build a small web page, and there's a whole bunch of reading to do here. First two links are some reading you have to do, and then the next ones take you through the steps that you need to take to get your web pages built and then online. And then there's a new technology. I'll come back on another recording about that research. So, starting off, how things work. So you already did a little research on what the internet is and how that's different from the web. And then there's some more reading on here on the difference between web pages, websites, web servers, and search engines. So that's important. And then we've talked about links before. So the idea of a URL and a hyperlink, link text versus the URL. And some of you are really good about hiding link text, hiding URLs behind link text when you make posts, but that doesn't happen all the time. And so that's something that needs to be fixed. And so this is a little bit more about that to help remind you. To edit web pages, we're going to use what's called a text editor. It's different than a word processor. So a word processor is a way to make words pretty. You can put different fonts in, you can make them bigger or smaller, you can add colors, tables, pictures, make things bold or underlined, whatever. A text editor is different. A text editor, you can only type stuff, but you cannot mark up the text in any way. In terms of changing the font or making it bold. It's just a place to type text. And that's what needs to happen to build websites. And this is important. So I'm on Windows right now, so I'm going to use Notepad. I'll do another recording later where I'm on my Mac. And on my Mac, I have to use something else. Like I have Sublime Text on there. I have Atom on there. I have Bluefish. Some people like Text Wrangler. But Notepad++ is only for Windows. It's not for Mac. I also run Linux, and I like Bluefish on my Linux computer. Atom works good there too. So again, if you're a Windows user, recommendation, get Notepad++. If you're a Mac user, then Sublime Text, Atom, or Bluefish, or Text Wrangler. They're all good. Take your pick, give it a shot. If you don't like it, try a different one. So if you don't already have Notepad installed or one of the others, you'll have to click the link and then find the download and get it downloaded. So even though I already have it on here, I'm going to reinstall it. This is probably a slightly newer version than the one I have. And then run it. And just go with the default settings. Whatever it says should be fine. And it should install pretty quick. OK, so here's my text editor. They're telling me some new things about it. I don't really care about that right now. So I have this blank page to do stuff on, and we'll move on to actually using it. Some other interesting things about the web, feel free to check out sample pages. I'm going to jump right into this week's project. So we're going to create a web page, and a web page is written in HTML, and HTML it's not a programming language, it's a markup language. So some people call HTML coding. Coding is programming, and HTML is markup, not programming. And we'll talk more about that over the next 3 weeks. So I'm going to copy this template right here for a new HTML page, and I'm going to paste it into Notepad++. At the moment, it just looks pretty plain, and there's really nothing I can do to make this prettier. Once Notepad realizes that it's a web page, an HTML document, it will colorize this to make it easier to read. So I'm going to do that right away. And that should always be the first step when you start building a website or a web page. Before you put any hyperlinks in, before you add any images, save it. There's 2 steps to saving it. So I'm going to save. And then it's going to want to know where I'm going to store it. It wants to put it in my Notepad++ directory, which is located in program files on my hard drive. Not the best place to store stuff. So I need a new place to put things. So I'm going to go to my documents. And then maybe here I'll make a new folder. And let's see, what was I supposed to call it? Did I say here? I didn't say here. Oh, how bad of me. Maybe it's on the next page. Publishing it. Didn't say there either. Ah, here we go. Building your first web page. I got a little ahead of myself. Okay, so this is called web tutorial. So my new folder, is called new folder. I'll have to fix that. And the first page should always be called index, index.html. And usually we don't type the extension, but here we're going to. It says it's going to save it as a text file. That's fine. You could switch it to an HTML hypertext markup language file, in which case it will add the .html for you. So technically here I could just call it index, no dot, and it will add on the .html. And I'll fix my folder name in a moment. Let's just save it to that new folder. Okay, see how the colors changed, so it marked it up. I'm going to go change the folder name before I forget. So here's my new folder. Let's rename it Web Tutorial. All right, and you can see in there I have one file called index.html. If your Windows file manager isn't showing the .html part, you want to fix that. To do so, you want to go to the View menu. If you don't see the View menu here, then hit the Alt key on the computer, and that will bring this menu up. And once it's visible, after you hit Alt, you can go to View, Allied, Tools, Folder Options, and we want to be able to view. Now here, they are, the default is to click the checkbox here will be clicked to hide extensions for known file types. We don't want to hide extensions for known file types anymore. That's not a good thing for us now. So again, in your file manager, if you don't see File, Edit, View, Tools, Alt will make that visible, Tools, Folder Options, View, and you want to uncheck Hide extensions of known file types, because we want to see the extension to be sure it's there. Okay, so we don't accidentally put the wrong extension or have a double extension. Those can all be problems. All right, so I'm looking good so far, and yep, that's okay. Now I better close and reopen it. Do I want to save? Sure. No. Okay, and reopen it. It's confused because I changed the folder name. All right, so here we are back at it. So I'm going to give it a page title. Maybe Gary's First Website. And I mentioned there were two things we're going to do for saving it. So we had to put it in a directory and we had to give it a name. That's all part of saving it. The second thing really is to give it a title. So I have a section here called Head, and the head has a title. And the title is what appears in the tab in a web browser. So for example, the title of this page is Build Your First Web Page. So that's listed up here in the tab. It doesn't necessarily display on the page, but it displays in the tab on your browser. And right now, so we have a head that's just information about the file. Everything goes inside the HTML tag. So there's a starting HTML tag. And there is an ending HTML tag. And notice when I'm inside one, it'll highlight where the beginning version is. If I click on head, it'll show me where the end of the head is. So the head is just preliminary information about it. And I can add all kinds of other things in the head, like who the author of it, when it was published, things like that. And that's not visible to whoever views the page, although it's part of the definition of the page. Body is where the things that are viewable to the users go. And so right now it has a thing called H1, heading 1, and you'll read about that in the tutorials. And it has a paragraph. So this is a paragraph. I could copy that, repaste it, and say this is a second paragraph. Now to see what my web page looks like, I have to view it, and there's two ways to do that. One way is from the Run menu of Notepad++. I can click Run in whatever my favorite browser is. And this will only work if that browser lives on your computer. For example, I don't have Safari on this computer, so launch in Safari won't work. But I can launch it in Chrome, which is my preference. And ooh, notice my second paragraph isn't there. It's because I forgot to save it. Ooh. And let's cancel, close that version. All right. So save. And then in my browser, I don't need to run it again because it's already here. I just need to reload it. And here I can see now I have a second paragraph. I'll blow that up. Control+ on the keyboard zooms in. And notice how big this as a heading is. That's a heading 1. There are other headings. So for example, I'll make a couple copies of that. And so we can see what a heading 2 looks like. If you start with a heading 2, you better end with a heading 2. So most tags, those are the things inside the what are called angle brackets, the less than, greater than, have to have a starting tag, like H3, heading 3, and an ending tag, which is /H3. So this is like a foreign language. It's going to take some time to get used to. So I should say this is a heading 1, this is a heading 2, this is a heading 3. And there are 7 different heading levels, and they get smaller and less bold as you move to higher numbers. So 1 is the biggest, baddest one. Save it, go back to your browser, and reload it. So here's what a heading 1 looks like, heading 2, heading 3. Paragraph is normal text. And we'll talk more about the styling, about how these get to be as big and bad as they are here later. All right, so that's just general information about how HTML works. So we've got this template that we're going to work with. The tutorials that we're going to go through, let's go back to the home page, to help figure this stuff out. So I give you brief tutorials under create, publish. So that's just the process that we're going to go through. And then the actual tutorial is under build your first page, build your second page, and then uploading this to be viewable on the internet. The place called Quiz Prep, Explore HTML, this is where all the tutorials live. So if you want to have a brief introduction to HTML besides what I'm giving in the video here, that would be located here. And all of these videos, all of these tutorials and our videos are at W3 Schools, which is a good site to learn things about internet stuff. So we're looking at HTML, hypertext markup language. We'll also look at CSS soon. That's cascading style sheets. That's to make web pages prettier. JavaScript is a programming language that makes websites more interactive. So by the third week, the last week of the term, third week of web stuff, we'll take a brief look at JavaScript so you can claim you've done some coding if you haven't before. SQL is a way of storing information and retrieving it to make web pages more interactive. PHP is a programming language, sort of kind of like JavaScript. Bootstrap is a styling system, often called a framework. You might have heard of Twitter before. So Twitter put out this framework called Bootstrap, and it's a collection of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that helps you make pretty websites faster. And that's a little more advanced than this class is going to get into, but it's some really cool stuff. I've built a few web sites using Bootstrap. All right, so we're mostly going to do HTML and CSS in this class. Basics, definitely want to check that out. What is an element? What is an attribute? So elements, these are important. I've talked about a little bit. The things I call tags are also called elements. And every element or tag has to have a start and an end tag. They all have to go in between angle brackets, whether it's a start or an end. Angle brackets are a less than followed by a greater than with the name of the tag or element in between. And most tags have a closing / whatever the tag name is, like begin a paragraph, end the paragraph. Start a heading 1, end a heading 1. The few exceptions that don't have an end tag are breaks and image tags. And there's a few others. All right, well, let's go to our tutorial. So again, I'm jumping ahead here. I'm on Build Your First Web Page, but to do that, you pretty much have to go through the readings of how things work. You have to pick a text editor. You have to look at what it means to create a web page in a text editor and how to publish a text page. And then all of this will be sort of reviewed in the part 3 here, where we actually build a web page with content. So I've got my basic template started, which is this stuff right here. This one has a little bit of an extra tag for screen readers. It's a good idea when you say you're starting an HTML file to indicate the language. And that helps screen readers work a little better. So I should add that to my file. So it went HTML space. And if you have an angle bracket in the wrong spot, or you start a quote and forget to end it, the rest of your page will get screwed up. So for example, if I delete this end tag, then the coloring is off. Notice that this head is red, but that one is blue. That's not right. So if you notice some weird color changes, something is wrong with one of your things here. So if I forget to end a quote, notice it screws everything else after. Put that quote back in. If I forget to close a tag, those are harder to see. Notice it doesn't show anything different in the highlighting. But if I save it and view it, it might screw up my page. So let's see, where did that go? Right there, reload. Oh, didn't screw it up. All right, so it wasn't a catastrophic failure. Let's put that back in. Oops. All right, so usually you want to start these and end these in the right spot. It's kind of like in math. If you use parentheses, you better end them in the right spot or you're going to get the wrong calculation. So let's get rid of heading 3. And just for the looks of things, I usually like to put a line, an empty line in between some of these. It just helps it make it more readable. And I think the indentation is also important. As far as starting a paragraph and ending a paragraph, that's important. Let's put a space on there. So for example, if I had a longer paragraph than this one sentence, so let's make this longer. And the way this program works, it doesn't automatically do text wrapping. That's something you have to turn on. So it looks like I have one long paragraph. If I save that and look at it in the browser will automatically do text wrapping. So I can see this is my first paragraph and this is my second. Now this is where things get weird. So in a regular word processor, when I hit enter on the keyboard, which is what I'm doing right now, it makes new paragraphs. And so in my editor, it looks like I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different paragraphs right here. But when I go to view that and save it and view it, no difference. If I right click and choose view page source, you can see that those line breaks are in there, but they're not displayed. Browsers ignore white space. White space are things like tabs, hitting a line, return line breaks, or paragraph breaks. Difference between that was talked about in the editing of documents way back in the beginning of the course. A new paragraph is when you hit enter on the computer. A line break is when you hit shift enter on the computer. Page breaks don't work here. Those are only in word processors. So let's suppose, like between the word this and is, let's go into the second line here. I put a ton of spaces. So I'm just holding the space bar down, and I save it. When I reload my website, you will see no difference in the display on the page, even though I reloaded it. But if I look at the source is what I'm editing here. You can always view the source of a web page. You can see that those spaces are there, but the browser ignores extra white space. So if there's one space, it says, oh yeah, cool, one space. But if you put 3 spaces in there, it says you don't need 3 spaces there. You only need 1. Save. Reload. It's not going to put those extra spaces in. There is a way to force extra spaces, but we'll go over that next week. All right, so very important, browsers ignore white space. When you want a new paragraph, you have to close the existing paragraph and then start a new paragraph. And so then I can bring this in there, get rid of all that extra white space. And so it's very important about those closing of tags. And you can even have it look like there's two paragraphs on the same line. As long as one paragraph ends and the other paragraph starts, this is really a bad looking page right now. I'll clean it up. But what you'll see is I'll have, this is a heading 1, this is a heading 2. You'll see this is a paragraph. Maybe I'll put paragraph 1 there. This is paragraph 2 over here. And then since I ended that paragraph, I need to start a new one. Otherwise, the browser might get confused. And so this is paragraph 3. And then this down here would be paragraph 4 at this point. All right, so let's see what this looks like. Looks like a mess there. But here it should look nice and neat. Paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, and then there's my 4th paragraph down there. All right, let's clean up this mess and then do something more useful. So even though these two are on the same line, when the web browser gets it, it sees this paragraph ended, and then it starts a new paragraph automatically. And that takes some getting used to. It's different than a word processor. So I don't need this extra white space here. Ooh, what did I do? Clicked in the wrong spot. And maybe I should turn on text wrapping. Let's see, where is that? Under view, maybe? Guidelines, fold all, unfold. What's fold all mean? Whoa, that's not what I want. Unfold. Oh, that's those plus marks. Sorry, I haven't used this editor in a while. Do not see text wrap there. Edit. Don't see it there. Settings, probably. All right, I'll get back to you on text wrapping. Apparently, I haven't used this in a while, and I forgot where it is. But text wrapping is something that's optional. I have a whole bunch of these paragraphs. So I'll just do it manually for now to make my page a little more readable in the code view. All right, so I can see where each paragraph starts and ends. Let's put that on a new line. And then usually when there's extra lines in between a starting tag and an end tag, I like to indent them. And somewhere here, there's an indent button. Don't see that either. Let's try tab on the keyboard. Oh, that's nice. There we go. So I'm trying to make it a little bit more readable. And again, sometimes extra lines in between can help that happen. All right, so that's what my page looks like now. It's a little neater here. It's going to look exactly the same. And I save and refresh here. All right, there's no change there. OK, so again, some weird things to get used to. Let's see what we got to do. So we have a web tutorial folder. Notice I have a dash in between up here for web tutorial. That's important. You don't ever want to use spaces. And I highly recommend not using capital letters in any of your file names or folder names if it's going to go on the web. Important. No spaces nor capitals. No spaces nor capitals, please. Otherwise, it's going to be a pain in the butt later. And your home page should be called index.html, also very important. Don't forget that. All right, so what I want to do is I want to take this content here and I want to mark it up to display nice. So I'm going to highlight everything inside that box, Control-C to copy. I'm going to go in here and let's paste it in between there. And then get rid of all this extra stuff. I don't need a heading 2. Don't need these paragraphs. All right, so I have one extra paragraph at the bottom. I have H1, this is heading 1. And then notice there are no paragraph tags or H1 tags. So what's this going to look like, do you think, when I view it? Is it going to look nice and neat, or is it going to be a jumbled mess? Let's take a peek. Save, refresh. Oh, what a jumbled mess that is. Okay, so remember, it ignores white space if you don't put the tags in. So I got to go put the appropriate tags in. Now, down below here, I tell you what tags to put in. Okay, so there's step by step. How are you going to edit this to make it work right? So let's start at the beginning. We need a page title. So up here, where it said page title goes here, I called it Gary's first web page. Now I need to call it computer security and privacy, and I can just copy and paste that in. Good idea to save often. And then save my file. Set the background color of the body using a style. So if you haven't read through some of the tutorials back on our main page about what a style is, that's under this quiz prep here. Styles. So styles are what make things red or blue or big, underlined, things like that. And so we're going to play around with that. So here we can set a style to the body. That means the whole page. And we can set a background color to it. So where'd it go? So we want the body to have the style background color sky blue. If we compare that statement right there to what's here, right now our body says only the word body. So going back here, I need to grab this extra stuff after the word body up until the edge of that angle bracket, because that's already there. Copy and paste. Now, I do a lot of copy and pasting. It's probably a bad practice, but sometimes a good one. It kind of depends. It's a good idea for you to retype these to kind of get a feel for the syntax. Syntax is the way we write things. Like syntax for an English class is you should capitalize first letter of the first word in a paragraph, capitalize proper nouns, you should put a period at the end of the sentence, you should put commas indicating pauses for the reader, things like that. That's syntax. Here, the syntax is when to start a double quote and when to end a double quote, when to put a colon and when to put a semicolon. So I'm going to delete that and retype it for you. So I want to add to the body a style. And spelling is very important. Style has to equal something, and whatever it equals has to be between a pair of double quotes. So what I usually do is I type style equals in both quotes, and then I use the arrow on the keyboard to get back in between, and I type my style. Every style takes two parts. What is it you want to change on the page, and how do you want to change it? And there's a ton of different things on the page to change. So many, I can't remember them all, and I often have to go to a site like W3 Schools to look up what kinds of things do I have the right to change. Okay? And they give a whole bunch of things that you can change here in the basic style section. There's a gazillion more under CSS, which stands for, again, cascading style sheets. So I want to change the background color. And one reason I said sometimes it's good to copy and paste and other times it's not. It's good to not copy and paste because typing it will help you remember it better. On the other hand, if you mistype it, like if you forget the dash or you put a space instead of the dash, it just won't work. So again, copy and pasting can be helpful. So often what I'll do is I'll split my screen so I can clearly see what it is I'm trying to change. And I'm trying to change the background dash color colon. Okay, so next over here comes my colon. And I like to put a space to make it more readable. And although powder blue is an option, I was asked to use sky blue, I believe. And let's make that bigger so I can read it. Where did you go? Sky blue. There's a whole bunch of named colors, but there's only several hundred named colors, whereas there's actually on a computer 17 million different colors. So later we'll work on using colors that aren't named with hexadecimal references. So let's see, sky blue. Anytime you type in a style inside the quotes here, again, it's what you're trying to change, followed by a colon, and then what you want to change it to, followed by a semicolon. And if you mix up the colon and the semicolon, or if you forget to type one of them, things will break. So let's see if this worked. We're going to save it. Save and refresh. Nice. Look at that beautiful blue there. All right, let's do a couple more changes. If you want to add a different color, go take a look at web colors here. I'm going to use the sky blue here, but there's a ton of other options, so feel free to personalize this. All right, first line, security and privacy should be a heading 1. Let's make it so. So where it says this is a heading in here, I'm going to get rid of the phrase this is a heading and move security and privacy in there. All right. And then otherwise, all these paragraphs should pretty much have a P in front of them. I'm going to indent that with a tab, P to start, and then go to the end of that paragraph and close that paragraph. And until I know otherwise, I'm assuming this is computer security is going to be some kind of heading, but for now I can make it a paragraph, no big whoop, and close that paragraph. So often if I have a lot of these to insert, I'll just copy one and just drop them in. Copy, Control-C, paste, Control-V, find at the end, paste, and then make it an ending tag with a slash. Control-V to paste, Control-V, make it an ending tag. That extra space there is meaningless. You could leave it or get rid of it. Control-V, Control-V, make it an ending tag. And don't forget, if you don't do a slash to end it, and you just do a P, that kind of puts a paragraph within a paragraph, which can mess things up. And down here, P and end P. Let's use that one down there. All right, this should be shaping up. Save it. Refresh it. Where'd you go? Right there. Ooh, it's looking better. Look at that big security and privacy, little computer security. What else? All right. Did all the paragraphs, blah, blah, blah. Okay, computer security should be a heading level 3. If you're not sure what a heading is, click this link. It'll take you to W3 Schools to learn a lesson. So that is going to be an H3. And if you type the tag right, it'll say, yeah, there's a bunch of things like that. Which one do you want? And then I better end the H3, otherwise things will be messed up. Well, watch what happens if I close with a P instead. I'll mess up my page. Okay, so since I never told it to close the heading 3, it's making everything a big bad bold heading 3, which is not what I wanted. And so the problem is that should be not a closed P, but a closed H3. So starting and ending these guys in the right spot is critical to making the page look right. There we go. Okay, so the H3 ended in the right spot. Cool, making progress. Next, we want to make the text of each heading a different color than the body. Okay. So there's an orange-red color, or we could jump out and take a look at the cool web colors out there. All right, so yeah, so here they give a bunch of different ones, but there's a gazillion different color names out there, and there's even more that are in hexadecimal that don't have a name to them. So I'm going to go for a green, forest green, which is also a hexadecimal color. So I'll show you how to use hexadecimal. 228B22. I'm just going to copy that and drop it in here. So heading 1, I need to add a style equals quote, quote, back in between. The text color is just the word color. It's not text color, it's just color. And then colon, and what do you want to change it to? Now, I found this web color 228B22. That's hexadecimal. For hexadecimal colors, you don't want spaces in there, and it has to start with a pound sign to indicate it's a hexadecimal reference for the color. semicolon. Now I know that's also forest green, so I could just type the phrase forest green. So this would be the same thing as just cut that out, type forest green. I spelled that right. Computer says no. Is there just one R maybe? No, it's probably two. What did it say? Just one R, okay. So if I save this right now and refresh it, I should see that my first title will change color to forest green, and forest green happens to be the same thing as pound 228B22. So save and refresh, and notice there's no difference. If you want to tweak that color a little bit, you can mess with those numbers and letters. So let's see, it's red, green, and blue. RGB is the color system here. So if we wanted to be a little bit greener, we could change this 8B to a bigger hexadecimal number. And after 8, there's 9. After 9, there's A, and then B, C, D, E, and F. So if I change that to like a dB, that will be more intensely green. So save it, and we should see a slight intensity change to the green. Whoa, it's a lot brighter, but it doesn't go well with that blue. So I'm going to change it back. It can be hard to pick colors that go well. We'll look at color pickers that help find colors that contrast well later. So I think that was an 8. I think that looked reasonably well. Save and reload. That's all right. Go with it. They still, a little better contrast might help, but we'll just stick with that for now. So pick some kind of color. You can, if you search the web for web colors, or you go to this web colors page, you'll find lots of options. I also want to add that style to my other headings so they match. They don't have to match, but you have to have a good reason for them not to. Could be just it looks good to have two different colors. All right, save it. What else do we need here? All right, so we changed that. All right, next we're going to add an image. So I have an image here I got from, I think this is from Pixabay. It's a public domain image, and I have information about why it's a public domain image down here. So first, to be able to use it, I need to download it. So let's see. Save image as is what I want. Super important. That image has to go on the exact same page as your index file. So in my web tutorial folder, I have to put securelock.png and save it. All right, now here I have a bad thing. Notice I have a capital L for secure lock. That's bad. Usually you don't want to mix capitals on web pages. So that's a mistype I better fix. All right, because this one is called secure lock without a capital. And web browsers will not recognize that a lowercase l is the same as a capital L. They're different, and that'll screw things up. So to insert this, I need to add that image, and I want it to float right. And here I give how to enter an image tag. It starts with a angle bracket img, and then src means what's the source of your file. And if it lives in the same place, that source will be just the file name. And I can see here it's secure lock with a lowercase l. Sometimes they have complicated long names, and so one way to do that, if you single click and single click again with a pause, it'll highlight the whole thing. Oops, give me the whole thing, please. And you can just copy that for pasting into your page. Let's see, where did I want to put that? Download it to your web tutorial folder, set it to float right of the first paragraph. Okay. So here's the first paragraph. I'm going to put it right in the beginning of the paragraph. So here, I'm going to put a space, and then my angle brackets. I usually start and end them right away. IMG for image. My editor says, yep, image is a good thing. And then I need SRC for source, and it says, yep, SRC is a valid name. Equals quote, quote. Always a good idea to start and end. And then I'm going to paste the name I copied. Secure lock. Oops, it missed the .png. So if you don't get it exactly right, the name of the file and its extension, it won't display. I'm going to drop that in there and see what it looks like. Got a few other things to do, but reload. OK, so there's my image. At first, when you put images in, they're what are called inline. inline means it's just like a giant letter. So this is just like a giant capital I right there. Notice it made the whole line bigger. If I put it on a different line, like down here by most, it'll make that line bigger. So I'll do that just for fun. So I'm going to copy this tag, Control X to cut it out, and then I'm going to stick it in front of the word most. Save and reload. Okay, so now it made that line bigger because it's in the second line of this paragraph, the way my browser's displaying it. If I zoom in or out, it'll look different. So I'm going to zoom back to 100%. Now it looks like it's in the first line because it has more room. But on a phone, maybe, or when I zoom in, it can end up on the second line, making that line look big. We want the image to float over here on the side or that side. So instructions here to make that happen, to tell it to float right. Here's information on what that means on a web page at W3 Schools. So check out that images page. I need to add a style to tell it to float right. So I'm just going to copy it for now, and I'll explain it once it's in there. So inside the image tag, so the image tag starts with that less than and ends with the greater than. So before the greater than, but after the quote. So this says the source is, quote, secure lock, end quote. Put a space, and then the style equals, quote, put your style, close the quote. So I want to change the way the image floats on the page, and I want it to float to the right. Float, colon, right, semicolon is the way that style looks. Save it, reload it, see if it works. Yeah, look at that, floats right. Now, notice it's down a little. That's because I put it near the word most. So it starts with the line where most is. If I wanted it a little higher up, I would have to put it at the beginning of the paragraph. So we can try playing with its position by just picking up its tag, cut that out, Control X, put it in the beginning of the paragraph, paste, save, reload. And every page is going to look different depending on the browser and the window that you're looking at it through. So I have a medium-sized screen here, and I'm zoomed in. So if I zoom out, it'll look a little bit different, the way it sits and floats. So the browser takes your code, looks at the window, and decides how to display the page, which is, again, different than a word processor. All right, so we got a few other things to add here. Other tags that you should have here, you should always have an alt tag. That's for screen readers. And you should always have a title tag. I could spell title, indicating more information about the image. So for us, the title tag will contain a couple of things. It'll say, where did we get it? And it will say, why can we use it? Okay, where can we get it is usually going to be URL. Why we can use it is going to be its license. Is it public domain? Is it Creative Commons license? Or is it really copyright, but I contacted the owner and retrieved the right to use it? That would have to be listed here in the title. The alt tag, I could just say this is a picture of a lock or a graphic lock. Graphic of a lock. And so when a screen reader gets a hold of this, say for somebody that doesn't see very well, it'll just say, hey, this is a picture of a lock, and it'll go on and read the paragraph. And then where did I get this image? It says right here that I got it from, it's a public domain image from Pixabay. And so all that needs to go in the title. So I want to copy that and paste it in between the quotes of the title here. So where and why. All right, got it. Save it. See what it looks like. Reload. Okay, so it doesn't look like much changed. When I point to it, though, whatever's in the title tag, title attribute of the tag pops up. So you can see it says, hey, it's a public domain, came from Pixabay. The lock is kind of big, so I'm going to resize it. And let's see, I don't think I said to do that here. Oh, but I'm going to do it anyway for fun. Sizing can be done in two different ways. If you go to the image page here, it should talk about image size. Do they? Yeah. You can do it by either styling with the width and the height, or you can do it by setting attributes for the width and the height. And notice the syntax, the way you type that is different. Okay? And again, that's a choice. Since I already have a style tag in there, I think I'll do it with the style. So back here, let's go to the beginning of that line. So I'm going to add to the style. So again, styles in between quotes with the word style. What do you want to change? Change it to. So after that semicolon, I can say I need to add a width to this, colon, and then what do I want the width to be? If you do something and type just a number like 100, the computer will automatically believe that's 100 pixels. Otherwise, you can make it a percentage of the size of the page, and there's a whole bunch of other ways to measure things on the screen. But I'm not going to go into that here. But it's always a good idea to indicate, instead of just typing 100, be clear. You want it to be 100 pixels wide. Now, it's dangerous to mention both the height and the width in one shot unless you've calculated that and spelled it right. Because if I said width 100 pixels and height 100 pixels, that's going to be a problem. So again, what do I want to change? Colon, what do I want to change it to? Semicolon. What do I want to change? Colon, what do I want to change it to? Semicolon for styles. We've got 3 weeks to get used to this, so it seems crazy now. Don't worry too much. Problem. Does this image look square to you, that the height and width are the same? Answer is no. So if I force it to be 100 by 100, it's going to distort the image. So let's see, did I remember to save it? No. Save and reload. And my image just got squished. Oops, not good. So how do you change it properly? There's 2 ways to do that, at least. One way is to go and inspect the image. So here, when I click on it in Windows, it said, hey, this image is originally 100 by 140, and it always goes width and height. So 100 pixels wide by 140 pixels tall. So if I wanted to make it smaller, I would have to maybe cut it in half. I would have to take half of that number and half of that number. Usually we want to do that ahead of time in a program like Pixlr and not change the size here. Every once in a while, it's not too bad. So I would have to say, maybe I want the height to be 100 instead of 140. So what I would do is not mention the width, because then what the browser will do is the browser will calculate what the new width should be for me. So I'm going to save this and reload it. And so the image is now similar to what it used to be, but it's been recalculated. Oops, sorry, one sec. Hello? No. Come in, though. Why? I'm recording right now. I gotta go. Oh, sorry about that. Child looking for me. Anyway, so you got to be careful playing with images. We got a few weeks to get used to that. So usually what I do is I just pick one of them to change, if any, or I bring it into a program like Pixlr, adjust it there, and then I don't have to mention the height and the width. Okay, so put that back in, and maybe I want it to be even smaller. Not 550, maybe. So the problem with changing it here, what happens then is the image is still as big as it used to be, but the browser's just making it appear smaller on the screen. And it's taking the same, the thousands of pixels that used to make this and cramming them into a smaller space, essentially. So if you have a lot of images that were big, but you make them appear small on the screen, it's going to take a while for your page to load. And that's a problem. All right, one more thing, and then I'm going to end this recording. It's a little longer than I wanted. So there's a few more things you needed to change there. The last thing I am going to do is add a link here. Now, although I haven't built my second page, privacy, yet, I'm going to have a page called privacy based on the next tutorial. So I'm going to add a link to it. Please go check out this link tutorial. So I want the phrase information privacy here in my last paragraph to link to that. So a link is an anchor on the page, and that's an A. An anchor has to have a hyperreference href tag. And the href tag contains a URL for the page you're trying to get to. Now, since I started my A tag, I better end it in the right place. So I have to end it after the word privacy before the end of the paragraph. And this is important too. Since this A tag starts inside this paragraph, it has to end inside the paragraph. It would be completely inappropriate and irresponsible for you to take that tag and put it on the other side. Tags have to nest properly, like parentheses in a math problem. So that needs to be right here. All right. And I want to link to the file called privacy.html. And then once that file exists, this link will work. So I'm going to save this and refresh it. All right, so I got most of the stuff I need in here. There's a couple other changes you need to make, so please read these other parts here. And I'm going to show how to publish a page. So to publish a page, you need to log into WordPress. So I'm going to sneak into a different account, CS student account. Come on. So I can get to my WordPress account. So let's go to math.bluecc.edu/WordPress. It's in the important links page, or it's in the tutorial. And I need to log in with Google. Now, once I'm in here, there's a thing called WP File Manager. And this is where I'm going to upload my web pages. For now, they're stored on my computer, but I want them to put them on the web. Putting them here will put them on the web. To do that, what you need to do is make sure your file is saved. Yep, I'm going to close out of that because it's saved. And then I need to see my file manager on my computer. So if you're on Windows, you got your Windows Explorer. If on your Mac, you got your Finder. And what you need to do is back up to the directory that your folder lives in and drag the whole folder over here. Okay. So again, double check. That has my index, my secure lock. Once you go through the next page of the tutorial, you'll have a privacy page and a privacy image. And you can update that later. So I'm just going to put my partial website here for now. And then I can view it on the web. So if you see the URL here, I'm at math.bluecc.edu/WordPress. And then here I'm called a student. If I was logged in as myself, I'd be called G Parker. If my name was Joe Smith, here I would be J Smith or Joe Smith. Sometimes it adds your whole first name and your last name. So here's how you're going to view pages. So hopefully you read through the previous tutorial. It said to view the pages you upload, you want to go to an address that looks like this. So math.bluecc.edu/WordPress/user_data/your first name, your last name. Okay. So again, if it was Joe Smith, it would be capital J-O-E, capital S for Smith, M-I-T-H. That's where you're going to view it. So I'm going to go give that a try. Copy that. Paste it in. And then for me here, I'm known at the moment as a student. Double check that that's true. There's my file manager. Nope. Go over here. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It says I am CS student. Oh, yeah, I made my first name CS. Forgot about that. Okay. So it's going to, whatever you told WordPress your first name is and your last name, it's going to make that your folder name. So I am CS student. And the capitalization, I believe, matters. So CS student. Enter. And it says you have a folder called web tutorial. Cool. Click it. Hey, there's my first page. Now, I didn't make my information privacy page, so I'm going to go and it says, hey, we can't find that page. Oops. So it means I haven't done it or I messed it up somehow. I just haven't done it yet. Oh, there's my lock sitting way on the right. If you don't see your image, it means you forgot to upload it or you didn't make the link correctly. So when I build stuff on my computer and I view it, like here it says I'm viewing it at file, and then this is the name of my computer. That's a crazy looking address. Over here, notice it says HTTPS, math, blah, 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 web tutorial. Two different kinds of URLs. You'll read more about those in the tutorials. All right. Wow, that was a long one. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to go that long, but I hope this was useful and helpful. I'll be back soon with more.